welcome to the video. We're going to be checking out a brand new plugin from the guys over at Baby Audio, and this one is called Parallel Aggressor. You can think of this plugin as iHeart New York's big brother. It uses parallel processing to give you a huge sound with minimal effort. So let's go ahead and see what's on offer. First of all, let's talk about the interface and the design of the plugin. Straight off the bat, it's a very elegant looking plugin. Everything is nicely laid out and easy to understand, as expected with Baby Audio products. Something that's also nice to see is the different contrast modes, which they introduced with the Combat Kid Delay plugin. So if you go up to this little half moon here and click it, you'll have a different color scheme. So we have a bright white one, we have a light gray scheme, and we also have the dark grey scheme as well. So depending on what your environment is, you can change it to suit so it doesn't hurt your eyes when working with the plugin. In terms of the controls, let's start off with the logo. If you click on this, this will bypass the plugin. In the center here, we have 3 different faders, and these are the faders that control the levels of the 2 process signals and also the dry signal as well. On the left here, we have our spank section, which is the compression area. This spank dial is to dial in the intensity of the compression that's being applied to the copied track. And down here, we have some sound shaping tools, which are very straightforward. You just simply engage them to get some different flavors. So the first one here is called Extra Punch, and it does what it says on the tin. It gives more low-end thump to things. And here we have Extra Smack. And when this is engaged, it gives the sound a bit more sustain on the tails, but it also lets more of the transients through to get some of that crack and attack, which is nice. And you can also engage both of these at the same time. And I don't know what happens to the signal chain, but it gets crazy and it sounds pretty nice. Over here, we have a sidechain filter, which is really nice to see. And I tend to use this quite a lot. And we also have the option to put the compressed track into mono. So it doesn't have to be stereo. We can actually take the copied track, compress it, stick it into mono, and then blend it in the middle of the stereo field, which is also very, very handy to see. Moving over to the middle section here, something I'm really happy to see is this auto gain function, which is something I mentioned would have suited iHeart New York, being in this plugin for when you're trying to dial in the sounds but not be fooled by loudness. So to see this in this plugin is a really, really nice thing. So thumbs up for that one. And you have the option to enable this and disable this. By default, it's always enabled. And if you want to disable it, you can actually trim the output if you want to manually do it, or you can keep the auto gain on and just trim the overall level afterwards. It also has a peak meter here, which works in RMS or peak, which is nice to see as well. And then finally, moving over to the right side of the plugin, we have the heat section, which is a saturation section. And again, you can use this dial to dial in the intensity of the effect. And then down here, we have some flavors and sound sculpting. So Extra Hot applies more of the saturation algorithm to make it even, spicier sounding. And then we have the tone, which changes the character of it when engaged. And over here, we have a high pass and low pass filter. If you engage the high pass filter, it just means all of the higher end of the frequency spectrum is going to have the saturation applied and not the low end. And then over on the low pass filter, it's the exact opposite. So the lower end of the frequency spectrum will have the saturation applied and the higher end will be ignored. So it's a very straightforward plugin to use. The only thing it doesn't really have is a metering system so you can see what's exactly going on. But like with most Baby Audio products, you're encouraged to use your ears more. So the actual metering section that we have here can be seen as these half spheres. They start off blue, and the more they get orange, the more it's been, smashed to smithereens, basically. So you can dial it in and use this as a visual cue, but really you should be using your ears when using this type of plugin. So let's take a listen to it in action and go through some of the different tracks. So what are my thoughts on Parallel Aggressor? For me, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a parallel processing plugin with aggression. It really does have an edge to it that's really dirty and in your face, wants to, flip the bird at you. It's great for rock music. I've really enjoyed using this on rock tracks because it's so simple to use and you can get such a, aggressive sound out of it very quickly and very easily. I can also see this being a real good plugin for people that like to do lo-fi and retro sounding music, because you can make things sound a bit more vintage using the high pass, low pass filters with the heat section and dialing that in. It's quite interesting, actually, some of the flavors you can get out of it. In terms of CPU usage, this thing's really got a low footprint, really nice to use. So you can use many instances of it and not worry about it sort of draining your system too much. The only improvements I could personally see with this plugin is having it, in terms of the interface, being able to have different sizes, even if there were preset sizes, so small, medium, and large, and this being small, that would be nice to see. And maybe, this might be asking for too much, but I would really like to see a little down arrow here, and when you click on it, it expands a rack. And then with the rack, you have full control over the high pass and low pass filters with dials. Same with the sidechain filter. And maybe have some control over the attack and release settings for these as well. And the color of the saturation as well. That would be beautiful. But we can't have everything. I know it's a lot of work for people to program in, but it's just a suggestion anyway. I like to throw these things out there. So all in all, it's a big thumbs up from me. I think they've done a great job with this plugin. So I'll leave a link for you guys to go try the demo out. If you want to purchase it as well, just use that same link. Support them. It's a great plugin. What can I say?